Hello and welcome to another episode of You, Me, and a Mug of Tea. Grab your favorite cup of tea and join me for this podcast. I am Fiza Jamal, your host for this podcast. And if you didn't already know, this podcast is my side hustle while I train to be a UX designer and hopefully land a job in this field. I'm still midway through my training. I am taking my training through Google Coursera courses. I've already received two certificates. I have yet to receive five more. I'm already on halfway there to receive the third one. So while I do that, I decided to pursue something else that I enjoy, and that's podcasting. It's a recent thing that I discovered that I actually enjoy this. I have been speaking on public platforms for quite some time, and I don't really mind doing it. But what I didn't like about it was the kind of attention or the kind of spotlight that comes with it, that comes with being on public platforms. I'm more comfortable with podcasting because how should I say it without sounding strange? Well, I guess there's no other way. It's because my face is not visible. That's the only way. So I feel more comfortable this way. That there's no attention coming to my appearance. It's just on what I have to say. So yeah, that apart. Today I decided to talk about something really interesting. It's also funny, but it's something that I honestly didn't know existed. And it's quite funny because just maybe 4 or 5 days ago, my husband and I were looking for something to watch on Netflix together. And we have watched so many things already. Thank you, pandemic, that now we're running out of options on what to watch. So this recommendation came. It was Three Wives, One Husband. I don't know if you've seen it on Netflix or not, but it's a series, it's a documentary series on these Mormons living in USA. I believe they're living in Texas. I could be wrong. I don't remember. But these Mormons, what they do is the men marry multiple times and have multiple children from their wives. So the documentary series follows, well, I've only seen maybe 2.5 episodes so far, and I find it so ridiculous that I don't know how to follow through with the other episodes as well. But we started watching it, and so it's following the story of two families. I cannot even call them couples at this point. One man has three wives, and one man has two wives, and he's pursuing the third one. And she happens to be the nanny of his kids, and she's 25 years old. That's like half his age. And he's trying to pursue her. And it's not just him who's trying to pursue her, it's also his other two wives who are pursuing her. So it's like three of them pursuing her to join their family as his wife. Yes, that's exactly how it is. And in the other family, in which the guy already has three wives, so he has maybe 11 children, if I remember correctly. And he is, so he's really funny in the sense that every time he gets awkward with one of his wives, or a wife tells him that I don't think you're spending enough time with me, or something, he just starts dancing. So that's his tell that he's awkward and he doesn't want to get into an argument. And his third wife, who's the youngest and the prettiest, as everybody believes, she's also heavily pregnant, but she's also babysitting all the 11 kids while the first two wives go out and have their jobs and have their lives. But this poor girl, heavily pregnant, is making sandwiches for the 11 kids and just taking care of them while everybody else goes off to work and lives their lives. And they've shown how sad her life is. And she even talks about the pain of sharing her husband with other two women. And she was recalling her wedding day, how beautiful it was, and how she felt like she was the most beautiful woman on this planet. And once, when the dust settled down, she saw things clearly, and she actually admitted to regretting making this decision that she shouldn't have married a man who has three wives already. So that was a sad part to watch. And then the other family, in which the guy and the two wives are pursuing the woman to become the third wife. They have plenty of children. I could not really count how many, and if they told us how many kids they have, I probably missed that part. And it's pretty interesting how their dynamic is shown. So the man is absolutely in love with the 25-year-old nanny of his children, and his previous two wives are supportive of that love to the point where they are neglected. They're absolutely neglected. Their children with that same man are neglected by that man, and all of his energy and his efforts are into pursuing that nanny of his kids, and she's half his age. So they do date and all, and they show us how they're dating. He takes her out on bike rides, on boat rides, on all of that stuff, while his previous wives are taking care of the children and taking care of the home. Yeah, it was hard for me to wrap my brain around everything. And what surprised me even more was his other two wives. They're totally okay with it. And they even show us a very disturbing scenario where this man, his two wives, are out on a date with this nanny. Yeah, exactly how it sounds. If you haven't seen this show on Netflix yet, Three Wives, One Husband, I suggest that you do. And so while we were watching this show, wait, I forgot one part. So this is how the wives are feeling, right? And this other man, I mean, who has two wives and he's pursuing the third one. So his second wife is actually quite jealous, and she admits to being jealous of not being loved like that. And she even continues to say that this 25-year-old has a brand new body. By that, she means that she hasn't had any kids and nobody has ever touched her. So she's brand new to her husband. That's why he's even more fascinated by her. And then she continues on to express her insecurity that she doesn't feel beautiful. That's why her husband doesn't find her beautiful. That's why he's pursuing another woman who is beautiful. So all of it is pretty twisted. It's, in my opinion, again, 7 billion people on this planet, 7 billion opinions. So in my little opinion, I find it very unhealthy and disgusting that these women are feeling this way because of a man, or the man is making them feel this way, and this is how their relationship, their marriage is. It's so strange. I didn't like it. So then they also, I like this part of the documentary series that they're also showing us how the man feels about it. You know, like every character in this series has a side of story to tell, and all of their sides are given a sufficient amount of time and attention, so the viewers can be the judge of it, right? So in this 2.5 episode, now that I think about it, they've shown pretty much everything. I don't know what other episodes have to show. So the man says that in this Mormon culture, what they believe is that the man is like the god, and just like the actual god is taking care of so many of his children on planet Earth, this is how the men in their part of religion feel that, you know, they're the gods and they take in so many wives and they have so many children because then they're supposed to take care of their community. So in that community, around 100 people live, and every one of them has multiple wives and multiple children. And this is just their way of life. So they really say that, you know, a man is created in the image of God, and they're replicating what God does on earth. Yeah, that's how it is. So while we were watching this, my husband just randomly comments that nowhere on this planet Earth would you find a woman having multiple husbands. And I also thought about it. I said that, you know, there's so many people, so many cultures, and so many even tribes, you know, indigenous tribes living in the Amazon and where not. I'm pretty sure somewhere there must be a culture where a woman has multiple husbands, not the other way around. Like, it's quite common for husbands to have multiple wives, and they even joke about it. My social media these days is full of it, that, you know, men really want a second wife and how it's not funny and men should not joke about it. I truly believe so as well. I mean, it's I mean, you cannot even handle one wife, you're talking about handling multiple. Come on. That's a joke in itself. So when he said this, that, you know, there probably aren't any women who have multiple husbands, I thought, okay, maybe we should give it a benefit of doubt and think like there must be some culture somewhere out there where multiple husbands are allowed at the same time. Not like, like if a woman has a husband A right now, she divorces him, gets husband B, he dies, then gets husband C, and then she divorces him and he dies, then she gets a husband D. Not like that. Like at one point, having multiple husbands. And we were just thinking about it. Where could it be? How could it be? And then we both agreed, okay, that, in this crazy, crazy world, there might be somewhere where this is also normal. And I actually got excited. If this is the case, I would be thrilled to know. And I don't know if it's fate or destiny or what, but then my friend sends me this article about South Africa, where South Africans are going absolutely crazy about an idea that is floated, that women are allowed to have multiple husbands at the same time, legally, constitutionally, and societally, and all of the lees. So I was so astonished, and I read more about it. And see, the African men, they're calling this idea very un-African, that it's not African for an African woman to have multiple husbands. Mind you, that in African culture, it's quite similar to this Muslim culture of having multiple wives, or not the Muslim culture where you can have multiple partners at the same time. And the men are considered quite promiscuous in some areas. And it's quite normal for them to have a main girl and a side girl, and then a side girl, and then a baby mama and stuff like that. It's quite normal over there. I'm not sure if it's looked down upon or not, and how they actually feel about it, but it's quite common for an African man to have multiple partners and have children from multiple partners as well. It doesn't matter if he's married to them or not, but it's how it works, right? So I read more about it, and I thought, hey, why is this idea even floated? It turns out that in South Africa and in Zimbabwe, there are women with multiple husbands, and they are called co-husbands, right? Well, I personally would not go for co-husbandship. I mean, my one husband is just too much to handle. He keeps my hands full, my brains full, just all of, like, I cannot even think about it. And in Pakistani culture, if you're not aware of it, women generally respond to questions like if you ask a woman, how many children do you have? If she has one child, she would say, oh, I have two children. One is 6 years old and one is 35 years old. So that's how women see men. Wives see husbands as kids. Yeah, we don't have kids right now. So how I started to respond to this question, that, oh, do you guys have kids yet? I say, yeah, I have one kid. He's 6'2" and he's 32 years old. These women who are having co-husbands at the moment, I honestly don't know how they're doing it, and I would love to talk to one of them if I can get my hands on one of them. I mean, how is she managing this? So in Zimbabwe and South Africa, there are women, there are cultures that support this, and more and more people are talking about it. And then I learned about this difference. We have all heard about polygamy, right? Polygamy is multiple relationships, but polygamy is actually a man having multiple relationships, and its feminine version would be polyandry. Polyandry is a woman having multiple relationships. So that's pretty interesting too. I learned this just a while ago. So the South African government is proposing an idea of a legalized polyandry. And the extreme religious people, they're against it, obviously. They don't agree with it. And as I mentioned before, they're calling it a very un-African thing to be. And there's like howls of protests as well to take their words back and just not do it. There are different schools of thought that are coming, that are being voiced right now in the South African air, that they believe that African culture is not really equal for both men and women. Men are in absolute power and they have the freedom to do whatever they want. And, they can be quite rude sometimes if a woman rejects their love. And I personally have also seen for myself that, like other men as well, but African men also don't handle rejection that well. So if they are out and about, and if they hit on a girl and she doesn't respond, in a friendly manner, oh my God, I'm so lucky you hit on me. If she doesn't do that, then they end up calling her names. They start verbally abusing her. So they don't really handle that well, because African men are so used to being in power and having absolute control over their actions and the woman's actions as well. So a lot of women actually submit to this kind of power, submit to this kind of behavior, and that's what they like. They like submissive women who just do and say that these men please, right? Now that this idea for polyandry is being floated, so much hate and again abuse is coming from these African men, because they just don't know how to let go some of the power and how to distribute the power equally in this African society. Now, I'm not saying that polygamy and polyandry gives power to one of the sexes. No, I personally am against polygamy and polyandry, but you can have your own opinion and that's fine. So I don't believe that polyandry or polygamy is one of the factors that gives absolute power to the sex. But if you really think about it, sex in the end, like the act of sex, is about having power, right? So if a man feels like he can have these kinds of relations with multiple women, he does feel powerful, and he can show off to his other friends that, oh, I have 5 partners at the moment. How many partners do you have? And if he has less than 5, he would feel less of a man. So that is a thing that exists. So if these men are thinking in these same terms about polyandry, then it does make sense that they just don't know how to distribute power to women equally in the society. Because if a woman has 5 co-husbands, as they say it, then she is considered to be more powerful in these men's brains, because she is at the same time attractive to 5 different men on a sexual level. One is that, you're committed to one man and other men still find you attractive, but that's just something that you ignore. But another thing is that if you are committed to one man and other men find you attractive and you actually act upon that, then it just changes the whole dynamic of the relationship. So there are some men who are secure with being a co-husband. That's okay. But there are a lot of men who wouldn't like this, who would be like, "Oh, why do you want more husbands?" Because, since our birth, our religion, our society, everything that we've learned, we've heard, we've seen, we've been exposed to, we always know, we always understand automatically that, okay, a man is allowed to do all of this and a woman is not. Do you get it? So it's kind of like that. So the African men, African conservative, I don't know if I should call them conservative, but the news articles everywhere are calling them conservative. But I'll also call them conservative in that sense. But if personally speaking, I wouldn't call them conservative. I would just call them as reacting to it, like any normal human being would. They are not happy with it, and they don't want women to have multiple partners. I think even in Pakistan, if this, well, in Pakistan, it's actually unimaginable that such a thing would happen. A bill against domestic violence was rejected. Well, also because it had some other clauses for how children can report the parents to the police, but that's another story. But if that could be rejected, I don't think any bill or any idea about polyandry would float within Pakistan's airspace, right? Just think about it, polyandry in Pakistan. Okay, sure. So the objections which are coming from the African conservatives is being called, an insecurity over losing power of being the stronger sex in the society. But we should also keep in mind that, South Africa's constitution is one of the most liberal ones, and even same-sex marriage is allowed legally, even though, of course, the constitution supports it, right? One, we have Taiwan. Taiwan is also quite liberal when it comes to its relationships between individuals, among the individuals. And then we have South Africa, where it is legal for same-sex marriages to happen. And it is also legal for men to have multiple relationships. Yes, polygamy and same-sex marriages are legal in South Africa. And then they're trying to make polyandry legal as well. And we'll see what happens, because I'm really excited to see, what would be the future of it. So then we have men who are polygamists. It's a difficult word for me to say. polygamists, South African men who are polygamists. Yeah, they are not happy with it, especially. And then they have a famous TV personality, right? His name is Musa. So he's totally against it. And he says that, if polyandry is legalized, if it's added to the constitution, that it will destroy the African culture. And then he continues to say, what about the children of these people? How will they know their identity? And the woman cannot now take the role of the man. It's unheard of. Will the woman now pay the bride price for the man? Will the man be expected to take her surname? See, it's pretty interesting. So, this TV personality, Musa, has brought a lot of points, has raised a lot of points that which actually validate the insecurity of the men in African culture of letting go of the power, of distributing the power, of let's just say, of just considering women of equal status. Again, I don't think polygamy and polyandry are the best tools to measure the equality of the status of a man and a woman in a society, but we'll stick to polygamy and polyandry for this podcast. So he says that, if women who are into polyandry, are they going to pay the bride price for the man? What? And are they going to give their surname to the man? What? And the children, whose identity are they going to take? Like, if a woman is having kids with multiple men, how will the kids know who their father is, and whose name are they going to take? Are they going to take the woman's surname or the one of the men's surname, whoever their father is? And he says that, a woman cannot take the role of a man. It's unheard of, and it will destroy the African culture. So here, when we talk about power, it does show that, because see, well, not in Islam. Islam doesn't label a woman as a property of the man. It doesn't even say that a woman is supposed to take surname of her husband when she marries him. It's just a part of our culture that women take surname of their husbands. But I, for example, have not changed my name. I've kept my surname, and I have married my husband, and that's okay. But there are women who do take their men's surname, and that's also okay. And in the Quran, it also says that on the day of judgment, all the men and women, they will be called by their mother's name. Although in this world and in this culture, we take our father's name, right? Like, I'm Fiza Jamal. My father is Azam Jamal, and my name is Fiza Jamal. But my mom's name is Aisha, right? So on the day of judgment, I will not be called as Fiza Jamal. I will be called Fiza, the daughter of Aisha. Just like that, my brothers will be called Zahak, the son of Aisha, right? This is how we're supposed to be called out on the day of judgment, by our mother's names. It shows that the identity of our father that's given to us in this world has nothing to do with how the religion sees it. And also, it's also important that we get our father's surname. It's to build that family tree and to have that kind of identity that, oh, she's that man's daughter. Because a man, in the end, has a higher status in the society than a woman does. So it's more important to see, who her father is than who her mother is. Do you get it? It's kind of a war of the statuses. So this African man says, like, it's beyond him. And it's not just beyond him. I guess it's beyond a majority of people living on this planet Earth, that how can a child take the name of, take the identity of their mother? It's unheard of. It's unimaginable, because the child is supposed to just assume the identity, take the identity of their fathers automatically. And then he continues to say that how will the woman pay the bride price for the man? So bride price, it's like dowry, but opposite. You know how in KPK you have like the man pays for the bride, or he will build a house for her, he will put the furniture for her. It's like showing a level of security that, okay, I have this and this and this. So he's kind of invested to have a wife of his own. Right? So even in African cultures, there's a bride price. What happens is that the guy and his family visit the girl and her family in the girl's home, and they agree on a settlement that, okay, for my daughter, you can give me maybe 2 cows, or five cows or maybe a car or something, and you can take my daughter for it, right? It's an exchange. Like if I'm giving you something so valuable of mine to you, like my daughter, you are also supposed to give me something valuable. And it should be equal to the value of my daughter. And there is no set rule on how much the bride price should be. It's among the two families to decide what the bride price should be. So this man, Musa, this TV personality, says that is the woman supposed to pay for the husband? Like, is it going to be called a husband price now? So it's beyond him. And it's interesting because he himself is a polygamist. So what he's saying is probably what he has gone through as a man. I'm pretty sure he must have had a lot of children, and he has 4 wives already. So if he has, for example, 3 children from each of his wives, and he has 12 children already who have assumed his identity, and he has paid for the bride price and everything, right? So it does make sense if the roles are reversed, because polyandry, the roles are reversed. So how far are you going to reverse these roles? So that's also an interesting argument. But now we also need to talk about the basis of this polyandry idea. Why was it even floated in the first place? It must be happening, right? So, yes, in Zimbabwe and South Africa, there are women involved in polyandry, and there is a woman in South Africa who has 9 co husbands. Yes, this woman has 9 co husbands, and 4 of them are her boyfriends when she was young. So she admits to having sexual relations with multiple men, and then she eventually, got together with them, made it official with them, and she has 9 co husbands. There are approximately, 20 women that have been researched and 45 co-husbands who practice this. And these marriages are considered as taboos, and of course they're illegal. But they're also trying to say, if you can legalize a same-sex marriage, which is such a huge taboo, which none of the religions agree upon. So if that can be legalized, why can polyandry not be legalized? So this is also an interesting argument, that if you are okay with a man marrying a man, a woman marrying a woman, and then allowing them to have offsprings of their own, then why can't a woman have equal partners? So again, like, this puts women in the lowest tier of the society, that they make the mostest, bottomest part of the society. Because polyandry, these people who practice polyandry, they consider it as their basic right to live how they want to live freely, to make their own choices, and not have, this society or these, pseudo religious people define who they're supposed to be and everything. So I guess in that sense, it does make a lot of sense that if a man has the freedom and, free choice to marry another man, and same as a woman who has a choice to marry another woman, then why can't a straight woman, have the choice of marry multiple men? That does make sense. So polyandry, how they're showing it, it does make sense. But, it also is fair that it should be left upon the women to decide, because I, for one, I don't get polyandry. I don't understand it. I don't want it. And that's my decision, right? It doesn't make me better than these women who want multiple husbands. No, or those women who want multiple husbands doesn't make them better than, men who want multiple wives. No, it's just about everybody allowed to make their individual choices. But then again, how far can you really push the limits of these choices? And if we talk about, free will and choices to live life according to your own rules, then why can't I go and take fruit from my neighbor's refrigerator? It's my choice, right? My will, my life. If I want to take fruit from my neighbor's refrigerator, why can't I do it? But then this other thing also happens, that because the neighbor doesn't have the consent, right? If I go to my neighbor's refrigerator to get some fruit and my neighbor is not okay with it, then it doesn't make it okay for me as well. But if my neighbor says, hey, you can come to my house, you can have fruit from my refrigerator whenever you want, then the consent is there. Then it makes it okay for me to get fruit from his fridge. Do you get it? So the same way, if these women who want to marry multiple men, and if there's consent involved, right? if these five men are okay with marrying one woman at the same time, then I don't think anybody is allowed to judge any of it. Because in the end, it is their life and it's a consensual marriage, it's a consensual co husbandship. Just like that, when you talk about polygamy, the Netflix series that I mentioned before, Three Wives and One Husband, those wives were consensually married to one man. And it's okay. I might not like it, but that's my problem. They're happy in their consensual relationship and they agree upon this kind of a lifestyle. And if I hate it, then I'm just, making a problem for myself. They're happy. So in the end, it all comes down to, the choice of lifestyle and, all these adults making choices for themselves. And if these choices are making them happy with each other, then I don't think anybody should judge anything. So if this idea has been floated about polyandry in South Africa, then all these conservative people with their opinions, I think they should keep it to themselves. As long as it's consensual and nobody's getting hurt, then there's no problem about it. And then they also say that, polyandry is shunned, and that if a woman is, asked about being in a polyandrous relationship, she would outrightly deny it because of the fear, right? Because of how she would be treated in that kind of a circle or in that society. So she would outrightly reject it, which has caused this polyandry and all of these practices to be pushed underground. So it doesn't really change the fact that it's happening. It is still happening, but just because they're hiding it or whatever, it doesn't change the reality of it. So there are people who are interested in this, so why stop them, right? So how does polyandry work? So in polyandry, the woman initiates the relationships and she invites the husbands to join her union. So they don't even call it a marriage, they call it a union, where the woman initiates, where she pursues the man, and then she gives him the choice that, you can join my union and be a part of my little family. And if he says yes, then he has the option to pay the bride price or not. It's up to him. So if he feels like, he doesn't want to pay the bride price, then that's okay, because this kind of a union is not traditional anyway. So it's okay. He can even decide if he wants to contribute to the household or not, to the livelihood or not. So in the end, the roles are kind of reversed, the gender roles, as the TV personality Musa was questioning. The husband has the option to pay the bride price or not, and to contribute in the livelihood or the household or not. If he chooses to not do it, then of course the wife supports him, right? Or the entire union would support that man, and that's okay. And in this kind of a union, the woman has the power to remove a co husband from the union. Oh my God, I can actually totally understand why there's an outcry among African men about this idea, because this is giving women a lot of power in the society. So she has the power to remove a co husband from the union if she feels that he is destabilizing the union. I don't think I need to explain this more. If you are a part of the society, if if you have the same brains as a majority of everybody around here, then you will probably understand what's going on, right? And then there's another situation where being a co-husband is considered okay by these men who agree to be a co-husband. It's what happens is, if they feel like they're not satisfying their wives sexually or in other ways, then their wives can, be like, okay, I don't want you. So what these men do, they say, okay, why don't you get another man? I will be your co-husband, because I don't want you to be out there having affairs and I don't want us to divorce. So in this kind of a situation, the man is actually compromising and saying that, okay, you can get another husband while I can still be in your life. It's exactly how some women do around here. If they're unable to bear children, if they're unable to, do certain things for their men and they feel bad about it, and the man says, you know what, I'm going to get a second wife or third wife or whatever, then the women actually compromise and they give in. They say, okay, I don't want a divorce, but I don't want to leave you, but I don't want you to leave me as well. So how about you get a second wife and I get to stay with you too? So it's exactly the same situation, but the roles are reversed. The dynamic is totally shifted. And then, of course, if some men are infertile, they're unable to bear children with their wives, as in they cannot get their wives pregnant, then they also agree to being a co-husband. They agree to having another man in their lives who can possibly impregnate their wife, and then they can all live happily ever after. That's also fine. So it's also about saving face, right? Saving face is a huge part of almost all cultures. Nobody wants to become the loser of the society, and being infertile or being bad sexually and all of it, there's all kind of taboos which nobody wants to be associated with, especially men take it to their egos if they lack in any of these things, so they have to save face, right? So they agree to being a part of that marriage, then to not be in it. It's all about their personality and their perception. So it does make sense, right? And there's another point of view that's also out there, which is challenging the conservative point of view. It's that we cannot reject law reform because it challenges certain patriarchal views in our society. And this has been said by Charlene May. She is working in the Women's Legal Center in South Africa. She has a point that why is this idea disturbing you so much? Is it because it's challenging the patriarchal values of the society? So from what I've said so far, it does validate all of it, that it is a part of, see, because polygamy is quite patriarchal if you think about it. So if polyandry is being introduced, it clearly is a challenge to polygamy. Do they find it disturbing because they just don't understand how a woman can take place of the man like this in the society? Because again, it's so normal for a man to have multiple women, but it's not normal for a woman to have multiple men. Even while I say this, I'm experiencing strong cognitive dissonance. My brain is not accepting it either. But then again, I'm not living in South Africa. Nobody's asked for my opinion over this idea. But I just want to discuss this because this is so interesting. This proposal, in fact, has been included in a document that is officially known as Green Paper that the government has released for public comment as it embarks on the biggest overhaul of marriage laws since white minority rule ended in 1994. So yes, the government has floated this idea out officially, and it has published it in its Green Paper. So Green Paper is the official document that the government releases, so the public can, give their point of view about it, how they feel, they can remark about it, and then the government can think, okay, so this is how the people are reacting to this. Let's see what we can do further about it. It's kind of like initial research, right? Green Paper is also quite important in how it works. It's because Green Paper is known for upholding humans' rights. And if something has been published by the government on Green Paper, in Green Paper, then that means that they are considering this to be a part of basic human rights. So if the proposal for polyandry has been published in Green Paper, then it holds a lot of weight, it holds a lot of value, because the government has started noticing polyandry as a basic human right. So that's actually step one for anything to be legalized. If you get the government on board, then I guess you can get anything done. And the same document also proposes giving legal recognition to Muslim, Hindu, Jewish, and Rastafarian marriages. So it's not just polyandry that they're talking about. They're also giving an official legal higher status to marriages in different religions as well. So that's also important, right? So if we say that, okay, Jewish marriages, Hindu marriages, Muslim marriages must be recognized, that makes sense. But a woman marrying multiple men, that doesn't make sense. So it's kind of a tug of war, even in my brain right now. What's right and what's not, how they should go about it, what should happen. Because if polyandry is legalized in South Africa, it would be the first country ever on this entire planet to actually consider that, okay, a woman can have more than one husband at the same time. I think it would make such massive headlines, and then all the memes which are supporting men in having multiple partners will be switched to all the women having multiple partners, and that would be so interesting. One thing that should be considered here is that, polyandry was once practiced in Kenya, in Congo, and in Nigeria, and it is still practiced in Gabon And the law allows it in Gabon, actually. I didn't know about this. So South Africa won't be the first country. And they also say that a marriage is supposed to establish an hierarchy. And this hierarchy means that a man is the head of the family. So if we bring polyandry into the society as well, then that would make the woman as the head of the family. Does your brain get it? No, because even my brain is not comprehending it right now. I blame my society, my culture for this, because I find it so hard to believe that how can a woman be the head of the family while her husbands, yeah, I said it, are still around. It doesn't make sense. As far as the question of children is concerned, like if this woman bears children of multiple men, how do you know whose kid it is? Then the answer is simple: DNA test. You just get a DNA test done, and then you find out, oh, he is my husband C's son or daughter or something like this. So in the end, I would just say it's quite interesting, this debate. If you have anything to add to it, you are most welcome to, and we can talk about it further. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about this polyandry proposal in South Africa and anywhere else that it's being practiced. And if you are a woman who's listening to this, would you be okay with having multiple husbands? And if you're a man listening to this, would you be okay with having your wife having multiple husbands? I honestly asked my husband as well, would you be okay if you become a co-husband to like two other men? And he just looked at me. He's like, no, why would you even ask me this? I said, okay, yeah. So I think popular opinion is that nobody would be okay with it. But we have to see how this plays out and how this unfolds. And I'm just so excited, because the next documentary series could be One Wife, Three Husbands. Imagine that. I honestly cannot imagine it again. My brain just blacks out at the thought of it. So thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of You, Me, and a Mug of Tea. I will return next week on Tuesday with a brand new episode.